listening to Movie Reviews and More with Brian Sebastian, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hey, this is Brian Sebastian. We are live around the world, and welcome everybody, obviously. I want to say hi to our sponsors, first of all, Provincial Vodka, now and Gelson's, all 29 Gelson's. Third Wolf Designs out of Denver. Want to say hi to you guys. Jenny Worth Fitness, Worth It Fitness. Qingdao Beer. There's just so many, and keep them coming. Thank you so much. Want to welcome everybody because it's been a very busy day. We went flying today, but before we get to all that, Zoriana Kit back again, which is always good to have Zoriana. Michael Lee coming in from freeradio.com. I'm calling her Bing from now on. Aberdeen. And one of my other good friends, part of I say the world's best social media family, because they are, until someone proves me wrong. Charisma Collins. They can't be beat. Anyhow, welcome everybody. Let's talk about that. But you know what? You came in from the furthest place today, so we're going to start with you today.
Oh, okay.
Welcome. All right,
well,
so we went flying today.
We did.
Why did we go flying? And we got to say one thing. We got to say hi to Zoriana because of Doris Bergman and Holly Davison. We have to thank them for that. Now, you have a British accent.
I do. Well, I was born in England, so it's very easy to have an accent when you're from England.
Zoriana, let me tell you this. She took me up flying. She didn't have a British accent, not one lick. She was all American. And then when she sat down and changed, it went to British.
Did she go all Top Gun on you?
No, she was pretty good. She let me fly her plane.
Yeah, and he did a really good job. He was a
Amidst
total
the
natural.
fires that we have today and everything that's happening in the sky, visibility was good?
Well, we went down to Santa Monica Airport, and it wasn't bad down there. It seemed like the fires were kind of being held off by the mountains, so we were all right.
That's good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your product, your brand, how you started flying, and then your watches. You got some beautiful watches made for women, obviously. Let's talk about that first.
So my full name is Chelsea Abingdon Cervantes Welch, and I just got married, so now it's Mullen. But
wait a minute, say that one more time.
The third. No, Chelsea Abingdon Cervantes Welch.
Interesting.
And now, well, scratch Welch, go Mullen, because I'm a Mullen. Hey, babe. So, but yeah, in 2006, well, when I was 14 is actually when it started. That's when I heard about flying. I grew up in Burbank, and it was cool. It was free food. My career center at my high school, they put on these career lunches on the first Wednesday of every month, and then you would go and you would just hear about what somebody talked about for their career, and you just went for the pizza, and you didn't really care what the subject was. So I just always knew that I had to go to the career center every first Wednesday of the month. And this one particular Wednesday, I was early because I'm always early to everything, and I was the only girl, and in walked two pilots from a flight school at Burbank Airport when they used to have flight schools there. And they just started talking about what it would be like to be a pilot. You don't have to join the military to learn how to fly. I learned at Santa Monica Airport, and you don't necessarily even have to do the airlines after you know how to fly. You could tow banners on the beach, or you could do traffic watch and be off by 10, or you could fly around celebrities in corporate jets, or you could fly helicopters, and you could drop water on fires like they're probably doing up north right now. So there were so many other avenues, and I was just like, okay, I totally want to be a pilot. So I went home that night, told my mom, hey, Mom, I want to be a pilot. She's like, that's nice, pass the peas, And didn't really give me any serious credit. But yeah, I got my pilot's license 7 years later when I was 22, and I got it in 34 days in Santa Monica.
What?
And I've been flying ever since.
How many hours do you think you've logged so far?
I know exactly how many hours. As of today, it was 3,002.8 hours.
Wow.
So, and I've flown about 85 different types of airplanes up to the Airbus, the A320s, like what JetBlue and Spirit fly.
How many women pilots are there out there in the world?
In the world, the numbers are pretty hard, but difficult to find out. But in the United States, it's only about, it's less than 6% of the industry. So it's less than 50,000. And at the level that I fly, which is known as an airline, they call it an ATP, airline transport pilot, there's less than 500.
Wow. And I flew with a woman, yes.
Yeah, and you did awesome. You were great.
I think I did okay, but
What,
you know
took
better
off?
than me.
Yeah, it was windy today, too.
I didn't feel the wind.
It wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
No.
What do women pilots in your industry think of Amelia Earhart? Because that's when you think of female pilots historically, that's like the first person that comes to mind.
Yeah, she's one of the icons by all means, and she really put women on the map for aviation. So I don't think there's a woman out there who doesn't respect her. A lot of people, I always joke because I ferry airplanes, I deliver them to people. So my longest flight has been from Southern California to Hawaii, and it was in a small little propeller plane, and it took 18 hours. So I do a different kind of flying than what most pilots do, and people often compare me to Amelia. And I always joke back, well, I didn't get lost. And that's a really bad joke. but it's not said, as any disrespect to her, because she is by far one of the most important women, in aviation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Charisma Collins. Let's talk about you. Kizzy
Hey.
for short. You
Yeah.
come from the world's best social media family. I had your sister on sitting in that seat. It's interesting to talk about your family because being from Canada, these great Canadians, you have such a great, warm, wonderful family. I love the fact that you guys do a lot of great things together, and you support each other. I really like that. Talk about how you started.
Oh man, well, we originally came out to Los Angeles because my sister, because she does music, and then my brother kind of got into social media, and then me and my other brother just kind of followed after their footsteps, and it's been cool because my parents kind of have always been super supportive, like follow your dreams, like do whatever you love, and I think that was a big, kind of super big impact on like what we do today. So yeah, I kind of started out from being influenced by my siblings and my parents, and so.
What people don't know is that I call her superstar because the first time I met her, she came out just flashing. She was wearing these mirror sunglasses, and she was just fashionable. I thought, she's a superstar.
Hey, well, thank you.
Just waiting to happen. But a lot of it is they all have great personalities, and I like that. That means something to me. You guys are very, very gracious when it comes to meeting your fans. Talk about the click of a button is how you guys operate, your generation. Talk about that.
What do you mean exactly? Like,
You guys don't do advanced promotion for stuff that you do. You just, what did I tell you half an hour ago? Tell your fans that you hear it, and you guys go click.
yeah, no, they're always kind of like on it right away. Like we were talking about that earlier. Like you don't necessarily need to tell people about things like 2 weeks in advance. Like they're kind of there always, like watching what you're doing and supporting, which is cool. So like in 10 minutes before something happens, you could be like, hey, I'm doing this grand big thing, and they'll be there to kind of support you. And like it's kind of a cool world we live in where everyone's super connected and can like communicate through this crazy platform. So yeah.
Sorry, don't you wish we could do that?
Yeah, I don't even know if I'd be able to do that. I don't know if I know how to do that.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
I'm the person who's going to plan something out 2 weeks in advance. I'm like putting out a press release. This will happen. Save the date.
Yeah,
Meanwhile,
save the
she's
date.
I know. Yeah, that's like a
That's-
foreign
I know,
concept.
I'm like,
Like,
exactly.
save the date. She's like, what? 10 minutes from now?
Yeah,
What do you
I'm
mean
like,
save
that's
the
too
date?
far, like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, that's the interesting thing. But, I know your numbers off the top of my head. I know your whole family's numbers off the top of your head. Your mom's got probably 31,000 on Instagram in
she's
general.
solid.
Mama Collins, don't forget about that. That's what hers is. So the other thing about that, your mom does a lot of great things. She works her butt off and
Oh,
stuff.
yeah.
And you guys really support. I talk about what family means to you because that's really important to the Collins family.
What family means to me?
Yeah.
Oh man, everything. Like I think my family has a huge impact on me, and I've definitely learned and grown a lot through my siblings, especially because I'm the youngest, and I've always had a really great family support system, and a lot of people in LA especially don't have that, and that's something I really value and can kind of share with other people, which is cool. Like my mom's out here always kind of being a mama to like my friends or like other people that really need it. So I think family is incredibly important. So yeah.
What's your favorite? Were you focusing more on Instagram or YouTube?
Well, currently I'm focusing
And
a lot
why?
currently I'm focusing a lot on Instagram, but I'm getting into YouTube more now because I really want to kind of showcase the things that I'm doing, and kind of I feel like YouTube gives you a wider range of like I don't know, like sharing stuff with people, and like
Yes.
Instagram's more for photos. You can put a little bit of video on there, but I definitely want to branch out into more like music and stuff, so I'm definitely going to be focusing more on YouTube.
Well, everybody's paying attention to you. You got 82,000 subscribers on YouTube. Dude. Where can you go wrong? Can you imagine that? 82,000?
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I always talk to people about how people are always like, I have like no followers, and I'll be like, how many do you have? And they're like, oh, like 2,000. I'm like, well, imagine 2,000 people in a room and they all like you. So that's kind of how I like to think about it. Like, so definitely a lot of people.
And Michael.
Yes.
Michael Lee. You go back, way back on the movie review and more side. Talk about stuff.
Oh,
Radio
gosh.
free.
Well, I guess I probably got my start the same way you did. I was bitten by a radioactive journalist, and now I feel compelled to watch movies
Juliana's
and
laughing.
ask celebrities questions about them incessantly. No, I don't know. I felt like I had to have a better origin story than what actually happened based on their two stories.
He's modest, but
man.
he's one of us where we come from traditional, and she's like the click of a button. So what I always wanted to do is bring traditional together with the people from clicking buttons.
Hey, from clicking buttons.
Here's the thing. You're going to end up on a plane. She's going to end up flying you.
Definitely.
You'll probably end up following Michael.
Yeah,
and you're going to learn
100%.
about Sea Shepherd today, too.
Hey.
No, actually, I mean, our origin probably was at the very same point. I mean, you probably were at my first official junket, which was The Door on the Floor for Focus Films. That was back in, I think, 2004. So because of the name of my website, radiofree.com, they had actually categorized me as radio. So I was in the round table with you and some of our fellow
Wait, Radio
journalists from
Free
back
is
in the
not
day.
a radio?
Well, it kind of started off as a music website and then sort of transitioned into movies. So that's where the name comes from.
Give your website.
Excuse me?
Give your website
Your
for
website.
everybody to know.
Oh, radiofree.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bing, yours. Do you have one?
Yep. Yeah, I haven't even told you about my company or anything.
Oh, no.
We
We'll give it
haven't
to you
talked
right
about
now.
that, but the website is theabingdonco.com, and I'll spell it to you like a pilot. Tango Hotel Echo, Alpha Bravo, India November, Golf Delta, Oscar November, Charlie Oscar.com. And then there's also abingdonfoundation.org, which we just started a nonprofit, which I cannot wait to tell you about.
Kizzy, your website real quick.
I don't actually have a website yet, but my handle is Ed Charisma Collins, so.
Yes, exactly. Get ahead. Watches. I'm wearing one of your watches. Why do I like this watch?
Well, everybody likes a watch for whatever reason they like their watch, but I started the watch company when I was, right after I learned how to fly, I wanted a watch, and they didn't make any pilot's watches for women in '06. So all the aviator-style watches were massive. They looked like grandfather clocks, hanging off my wrist, and it just didn't fit. So I started making pilot's watches initially, and then now you're wearing one of the dive watches. So
I like it.
Yep, and even in the dive community for women, it's pink and purple are your basic choices, and that's it. And then they don't have the robust features that men's dive watches have. And having a dive watch that's an automatic versus battery operated, something as simple as that. An automatic doesn't require anything other than moving your wrist, and a battery has to be changed every 2 to 3 years. Well, finding an automatic dive watch for women does not exist. But if you think of a diver, if you have to open up that case back and change the battery all the time, that's going to be a huge problem because you got to water seal it every single time you put it back together. That's every 2 to 3 years. I spoke to a customer who bought one of those watches, the same one you're wearing, and she's like, I actually have a calendar for my watches so that I know when I have to send them in because it takes about a month to 2 months to get it back fully sealed so I can take it on a dive trip.
That's why my dive buddies wear the watches, and I prefer not to because it's just too
crazy.
much to deal with. Yeah.
It's a lot of work, and you want your equipment to just work.
Yeah.
You don't want to have to think about how to maintain it. So when we made the women's dive watch, it was automatic, 660 feet water depth. So I mean, you can go far with this thing, and it comes in 8 different colors other than just pink and purple, So so all the watches are basically adventure watches for adventurous women. Women
I like
who,
that.
Yeah, scuba dive, race cars. We even have a German woman who's taken it into outer space. She's going to be the first German astronaut. And she's been wearing one of our watches for 5 years now,
Cool.
Nicola Baumann. And so in this effort of promoting women and getting them into activities that are mostly done by men, we started the Abingdon Foundation. So we're offering 3 scholarships next year in 2018, one for the helicopter industry, the scuba diving industry, and the aviation, like airplanes, because airplanes and helicopters are definitely 2 different industries. And we're going to bring a woman. I've actually been offering this scholarship, a single scholarship per year for the last 6 years. Next year we're going to up it to 3, and it's an international fully paid round-trip ticket here to the States. Go to the largest industry conference and learn about the industry, build your Rolodex, network. Like you said, it's all about relationships and people and just carrying that forward. So this year's winner was from Ghana, last year's winner was from Illinois, the year before that was from Ireland. So we've brought women from all walks of life to try and discover if this is something they want to do for a career or even just for fun. It doesn't have to be a career.
That's
you
great.
know? Yeah.
I was going to say, obviously you have a bunch of watches in the box here too. What is your favorite one? Do you have a favorite?
Oh, for sure.
And you are wearing two today. Do you always wear two?
I always wear two. But
Why is that? Why is that? I thought that was pretty cool.
Well, if I have 3 wrists, I'd wear 3. I mean, I was a walking catalog for, the first few years of starting my company. And when you have no budget, because I really did bootstrap this thing from the beginning. And now it's 10-year anniversary. But I was always known as the girl who wore, the watch lady who wore 2 watches. And
I thought that was pretty cool.
Thanks. Yeah, I like it. So yeah, and so this one I kind of change up with whatever I'm doing or what I'm wearing, but this one is my solid, and this is Jackie in Seaplane Green, and it's the original prototype actually. So it's still been working after 10 years. I've only had to change a battery.
And Zoriana, you're always in the ocean, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny you say that it's for these girls to discover if it's what they want to do or if they want to make a career out of it. But it's interesting how even if they don't make a career out of it, that experience will or is likely to point them in a career that's related to that. Because I started scuba diving only a few years, but when you're underwater and you see you see firsthand the state of the oceans, or all those little micro things that you just. I mean, it's like being on the moon. I mean, I've never been on the moon. I don't know if it's like being on the moon, but you really feel like you're on a different planet. And so when I joined Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, when you're fighting for marine life, when you're fighting for the preservation of the oceans, to be a scuba diver and to have that personal knowledge of what's happening underneath the oceans is huge.
Yeah.
And so even though I'm not a professional scuba diver, although I think I could use one of those watches, and perhaps maybe some of the female Sea Shepherd captains could use some of those watches as well.
Definitely.
Exactly.
It very much, scuba diving very much figured into my passion for the oceans, absolutely, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Kizzy, do you wear watches?
I've never really worn them, but
your
I like
generation doesn't need them. You just look at that. You're like, when it's 10 minutes
I know,
from now,
I
right?
I got my phone, I'm pulling out, I'm like,
you know when it's 10 minutes
it's
and pressing the button.
Yeah, because these days, for my generation, people wear it more as a fashion statement rather than something that's practical. But they look nice, So I just never thought about wearing one because I got a phone, but I like them. So
No, exactly. I felt the same way, but no, I felt the same way as she did. I look at my thing, but I miss wearing a watch because I think the last time I wore a Rolex was before she was born. But I liked your watches, and I was posting up stuff on Facebook last night. Immediately, my fitness friends they clicked onto the adventurous one, and I go, wow, they liked that, and it was within moments.
Yeah.
And one of them was the blue one, and something else, because I love the ads of what you see.
Oh, sure.
I don't care if it's a woman's watch. I like the fact that you made it from women. I would wear it.
Well,
because
and
I think it's stylish.
Do. Yeah, a lot of men do, because even for men's watches, if watches should be worn like your clothing. If you wore too small of a shirt, it might look odd. If you wore too big of a shirt, it would look definitely odd. So if you wear a watch that is way too big for you, which most of the men's styles these days, at least for the last decade, have been these massive, huge things. So I have a lot of guys who wear these just because it fits them better.
Yeah, but there is something about wearing the boyfriend sweater, right? That's
There's
a little
that.
bit over
Yeah.
boyfriend jeans, and then having the boyfriend watch that's a little bit bigger.
And a little bit is perfectly fine. But if I have something that's as thick as my wrist, sitting on top of my wrist, that's
like a mini laptop
Yeah.
on your wrist.
Oh my gosh, let me just open this up really quick, guys.
But you do actually have something that's interchangeable. You were telling me how you could take one out and put it into something else, right?
Totally, yeah.
Talk about that.
All the straps are completely interchangeable. So, right now I'm wearing something relatively nice, and I'm here in an interview, so I'm going to kind of dress this one up a little bit. But if I'm going out scuba diving, I would literally just remove the band like that with just 2 pinches of my finger and thumb. I could take the case right off and put my silicone strap on.
Wow.
And the silicone strap has extra loops to fit around wetsuits. It's extra long. So, and also even for the titanium strap, you can do the same thing. You can fit it over a wetsuit.
Wow.
So, but if I were going out to like a nice event or a good dinner, I could maybe put a leather strap on this. You know, I could do any type of combination of material. And what fits on this watch also fits on this watch. So this one's called Marina, that one's called Jackie, but they still have the same bands that will fit. So all the bands are completely interchangeable.
That's pretty cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah. So it's been a long time to figure out all this stuff, you know, over 10 years. But women love it. And it's funny that you mentioned the ads, and you're so big on social media. All of our ads are Fan Photo Fridays from Instagram.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So people
I love your
submit.
ads.
Smart.
Yeah.
That's
I love them.
definitely the way to go.
People submit their pictures of them, like, you know, jumping off cliffs and
Yep, you got some great
doing
ones.
some crazy stuff, and flying airplanes, and there's like jet pilots all over the world and stuff, and so we just use those as our ads, which
yeah,
is really
that's
cool.
genius.
Well, yeah,
when people
because
feel like they're
you want to
interacting.
promote a lifestyle. I mean,
Mhm.
that's really, and that's where Instagram works so well, is you promote a particular way of being and living, and
Yeah.
and people want to buy clothes and accessories and things that come from a place of it, how, you know, it's how you use them. It's not so much about how they're displayed and how
Right.
they're
Yeah.
laid out. It's how they're being used and worn.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
relatable to people when
Yeah.
you see that.
Totally.
You're like, I could do that. Like,
Totally.
you're like, you know,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
definitely a move.
Exactly.
With
If-
the advent of smartwatches, do you imagine that you're going to have to incorporate a lot of technology in traditional watches?
Oh, I
going
totally
forward?
want to come out with a smartwatch, for sure. Yeah, but most of the smartwatches I found today, they have the same features. They're just wrapped around a different case. And, you know, the track stepper and the alarm and the calls and the texts and things that come through, I really want to kind of go out of the box and really do something different and make it dive worthy and make it altitude pressure worthy, which smartwatches right now, they just don't have it yet. But I feel like the technology is getting really, really fast. So it's growing, so I want to definitely come out with something like that.
Yeah, I love seeing women in positions that are been generally dominated by men. At Sea
I do
Shepherd,
too.
we have so many female captains, and in fact, we are unveiling a brand new ship on Monday, which I can't announce just yet because we're not putting out the press release that I've been working on.
10 minutes.
What do you mean? I can't wait.
We're not putting that out until Thursday, but with that announcement of the new ship is the announcement of a female captain who is
Oh,
quite
great.
well known in the industry and the entertainment industry as well. And so she'll be captaining this new ship, and we have several female captains now. And I mean, these women do incredible work to take charge of a ship and to be there to guide it, to watch over an entire crew and to keep everyone safe. Much what a pilot does when they're
Yep.
flying commercial airplanes. I mean, it's a monumental task, and it's a technical task, but it's also a very social task as well. You
Yeah.
really have to have the right combination of being a people person and a very technical, savvy, you know, Girl Scout kind of a person, because you have to have all the safety features taken
You're
care of.
assessing risk the entire time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So, yeah, that's very cool.
Kizzy, had you ever heard of Sea Shepherd before?
I don't think so, no.
You
Wow,
get a chance
let me
to tell
tell
her.
you.
I'm very familiar
Yeah.
with Sea Shepherd. I like Sea Shepherd.
Well, Sea Shepherd, for you, the young uns,
Oh.
it's an organization that was founded 40 years ago by Captain Paul Watson. Again, before your time, Paul Watson was the star of a reality show called Whale Wars, where he and a crew of other captains and crew were taking on Japanese whalers who were killing whales in the Southern Ocean, because we're all about saving marine wildlife. And we have, we've got like over a dozen ships around the world working on different campaigns, from Gabon to Africa to we're in Mexico, and we also we started doing some relief work this year, because when the hurricanes hit, there was an unprecedented amount of islands that needed our help. And because these islands, they depend so much on the oceans around them, and everything was so decimated that it became also an environmental issue to go and help them. So we had an operation called Operation Good Pirates of the Caribbean, where we went to all the different islands and we gave aid to them. But today we put out a press release. And very proud of how hard I worked on this press release. Really, I am. We are announcing a campaign. This one's a long-term campaign called Operation Taino Warrior Promise. No, I'm sorry, Operation Taino Spirit Promise. And it's a partnership with an organization called Taino Warriors. And they are a Puerto Rican based NGO or a company. Gosh, it's very convoluted here. So Puerto Rico needs our help, and they were not part of the Operation Good Parts of the Caribbean because at that point they weren't quite as hard hit as some of the other islands. So now we're focusing specifically on Puerto Rico, and so we've partnered with Taino Warriors and Michelle Rodriguez, the actress from Fast and the Furious. Her father is Puerto Rican, and so she grew up her summers in Puerto Rico, so she's very attached to the island. So we're going to have a ship that's going to go there, and we're going to do relief work, and we've partnered with NGOs who are on the ground, who are working in the areas of environment, agriculture, as well as children's mental health and education. And we'll also be collecting plastic and taking it off the island because the landfills in Puerto Rico are full, and they've been full for years. And we often partner with groups that we bring them plastic and they make something useful out of it. So this is going to be a big ongoing operation, and we're very excited to do it, and Puerto Rico needs it, and they really need the long-term help. I mean, it's been 75 days since Hurricane Maria hit, and things are still
We've had a
not
couple
well.
actors on. Natalie Byrne is going there. She was there 6 days before it hit, and she was very devastated by that. So she's been going there and taking relief herself. There's been I'm amazed at all the people that just been reaching out. I think that's great. It's obviously it's really, really important. When it comes to your genre, your age limit, I mean, where are you guys seeing things when we have natural disasters? Because I don't really see that people are really getting involved with anything, but we may just not be hearing.
Well, I think that Twitter's definitely a big place that we hear the news, and I think people get really involved on Twitter, but a lot of kids in my generation, we don't really necessarily watch the news, but I think through social media, we do kind of get involved, but I wouldn't say as much as we should. I definitely think that there's a lot more that I don't think anyone really is taking action as much as kind of just talking about it. You know?
But isn't your generation concerned about the future of our planet? I mean,
yeah. I mean, I definitely say that I am, but I feel like a lot of people, I think a lot of kids my age, they're not necessarily educated on that. They don't really know a lot about what they're doing to the planet or what's kind of happening. They're not really aware. They're more focused on everyday things, which, obviously.
That's been a source of frustration for me because everything we do at Sea Shepherd is for the next generation. Is to leave something behind so that you guys have something, so that you aren't left with nothing. And it's frustrating to see that some of them just are. There's a lack of involvement and a lack of caring because social media is more about taking the next selfie and taking a picture of themselves as opposed to actually saying what's happening with our planet. The oceans are in trouble. They are dying. They're being polluted. They're being overfished. There's poaching going on. We are losing species to extinction. And it would be so nice to see someone from your generation actually stand up and say, I'm going to take a stand. I'm going to do something. I'm going to join an organization like Sea Shepherd, or I'm going to go on a ship or help a campaign and make a difference. Because it only takes a few to have everyone else follow suit and get on that bandwagon. And I think once you dive into that world, literally, you'll see that there's a lot of work to be done, and it's important work because without our oceans, there's just no planet.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Interesting enough, I've actually been talking about this a lot with my parents lately about how it's really cool to have an influence, but it doesn't really necessarily mean much if you can't talk about important things. And I've really been wanting to get involved with stuff like that, with kind of nature and stuff, and helping the planet, because that's incredibly important. And I think when you have a following, it's important to kind of spread the news. And I've definitely just been like, it's hard when you're young to kind of find those things.
Sure.
And I think that they should be more accessible to a lot of kids, like kind of like shown to them. Because I think like, oh, I'd want to be involved, but like, where do I go? What do I do? And I feel like it's important to kind of show, you know, kids of this generation like an easy way to kind of get involved, which is what is important, because that stuff is definitely, we want to have a world that we can live in and not one that's going to be, you know, put to crap. So
Michael, did you know about Sea Shepherd? Had you heard?
No, actually, I'm being educated all on this as we speak.
Well, this is movie reviews and more, so this is the more part. That's why it's important.
You've never heard of Sea Shepherd? It's so funny because I've only been with them for a few years, but I feel like I've known about them my entire life. I mean, Captain Paul Watson is Canadian. He was the youngest founding member of Greenpeace, and then he left Greenpeace and started Sea Shepherd in 1977. So it actually originated in Canada. And I mean, he's just a hero to so many people because he's led ships in direct action, like standing in front of between him and the Japanese whalers, or between him and a Soviet whaling boat. I mean, he is fearless, and he always says, I don't care what people think because I'm doing it for the animals. So the day a whale tells me no, no thank you, then I'll stop. But until then, my clients are the animals in the sea, and I'm there to fight them. So if, you know, to any detractors, he does not care what people say. And he is fearless, and he is passionate, and there's just no one like him. And it's an organization that's now a movement. We have you know, Sea Shepherd Australia, Sea Shepherd France, Sea Shepherd Italy. I mean, there's Sea Shepherds everywhere, and it just keeps growing and growing, and it's something I'm really proud to be a part of. If you saw the movie The Cove, did you ever see The Cove? Yeah. So it was Captain Paul Watson who, before The Cove, was already there documenting what was happening in Taiji, and Sea Shepherd is featured in the movie The Cove. If you saw the documentary Sharkwater, featuring another Canadian, Rob Stewart, again, Sea Shepherd, a big part of that, because we were in Costa Rica where we had some issues with some poachers, and that was all documented on camera. So it's quite an extraordinary organization. Our logo is a Jolly Roger, so it looks like a pirate flag, so people sometimes think of us as pirates, but the skull has a whale and a dolphin that represents like a yin-yang of the ocean, and the cross is a shepherd's staff and a Neptune's fork to symbolize, you know, that we are stewards and shepherds of the sea, and of course it's water. And then the skull is sort of what happens when we take species to extinction. All that's left is just
it looks like this.
Yeah, I was like, I have it right here.
There we go.
Right.
And I usually have the water bottle, but someone took my water bottle. But I was glad that they took it.
It's actually great that you bring up those documentaries, because I feel like that's a genre of film where recently we've been inundated with so many documentaries covering every subject that sometimes it's hard to sort out what's worth your time watching and what just might be like reality show fluff. You know, it totally runs the gamut, so it's good that you single those out.
And what has been worth your time lately?
Oh gosh, documentary-wise?
In general?
Just...
Because when Zoriana was last year, she was talking about I, Tonya, which comes out this week.
Oh, yeah. Hi, Tonya.
And everybody was talking about it this week. What have you seen?
Well, actually, I've been keeping up more on the blockbuster side of things, so...
There's no shame in that.
You know, I've just been going to the movies for entertainment recently.
So what have you seen?
Well, I think right now we're sort of knee-deep in all of these shared universe franchises. So we just had Justice League out this past month. The Avengers Infinity War trailer just dropped, and everybody's excited about that. And I think
Thor Ragnarok,
part of that whole Marvel Cinematic Universe, and
Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Guardians 2 was this year, and also Spider-Man. So we had 3 Marvel movies this year, and yet they show no signs whatsoever of slowing down. People are just as ravenous for all of this stuff as ever. But
and they do a great job weaving. I mean, how many cameos does Robert Downey Jr. have in all those Marvel movies? I mean, he's like the through line in all of them.
Yeah, I mean, he's totally been the linchpin of this whole franchise, right? And started the whole thing with Iron Man. We're closing on, what, like the 10th year anniversary?
Which, by the way, I was,
She was
in
in.
the first one. I played
What?
myself, literally.
Hey.
Zoriana Kidd as herself, yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's
Okay.
cool. What?
So clearly then that's your favorite Marvel
Well,
film
see,
out of the
that's-
franchise.
I mean, since I started it all, then sure, yeah, why not?
Okay, see, we've been giving credit to Robert Downey Jr. this whole time for starting
The
this whole
wrong
thing.
person.
Really?
Yeah.
No, let's give it to the women. Let's give it to the women here. Right?
Totally, yeah.
But, you know, I think maybe the biggest movie news, obviously, right now is that we are on the cusp of seeing Star Wars being released next
Next week, yes.
Carrie
And-
Fisher's last,
Yeah. I mean, obviously, there's going to be a huge nostalgia factor for a lot of the fans of my generation and before. And actually, since we've been tapping Charisma's brain to represent the millennial generation, I was just curious, like, is there sort of any nostalgia factor for a franchise like Star Wars, or are you just looking forward to it strictly for the action and the storytelling?
I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't know what nostalgia means. What does nostalgia mean? Like
olden days, back in the old days.
Like, okay,
Like, did you
the
watch
original.
the
Is
earlier?
Okay, yeah. So a lot of my friends are actually super obsessed with Star Wars. Like one of my best friends,
Really?
she like has watched all of them, loves them. I definitely think my generation, like even though they're a little bit older movies, like they're really like they're classics. Like we love them and we appreciate those movies and still love the future ones like that are coming out and the ones that just have. I definitely think it's a kind of they're very different since they were produced differently and stuff. Like I feel like I personally didn't watch a lot of the old ones. I watched like 2 of them, I think, and there's like a lot of them. But
Is it kind of campy for you to watch them away, or what?
well, I think like they were kind of like slower though. Like
Oh,
there wasn't
sure.
like a lot going on. Whereas I feel like a lot of movies these days are more like this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. So we're kind of used to that. Whereas so I definitely respect the movies and I love them and like I'm super excited for the new ones to come out. And I do think this generation like we definitely respect Star Wars for its credibility and actually like it as a movie rather than it just having a bunch of action or being an action movie. I definitely think.
Well, I think speaking to your comment about the pace of it, yes, if you do watch the original trilogy, we're always looking forward to the lightsaber fights, and clearly the fight choreography on the original trilogy is much slower paced
Yep.
and less action-packed.
But that was
than
also the
even
technological
prequel.
abilities
Sure.
that they
Oh,
had back
100%,
then,
yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Right. So I guess what I'm saying is that like a lot of people will dump on, let's say, the prequel trilogy. But one thing I think that we can agree that the prequel trilogy did was they did have better action, better lightsaber fights. Phantom Menace, I think the fight between Darth Maul, Qui-Gon Jinn, young Obi-Wan, I think that has got to be the standout of the lightsaber fights in all the films.
I think every boy, no matter what generation he's from, will always want a lightsaber. I mean, my brothers did
Yeah,
in the
I mean,
70s.
Wait, I wanted a lightsaber.
Yeah, I'm like I want.
Well, you actually got in the
child.
aircraft.
That's true.
Yeah,
I have my
never
own.
really wanted. I wanted a little Ewok, but
Did you?
that's
I
A
want
little
an
Ewoks.
I love
that's
See,
the
I was a
end- that's
martial
the
artist. I
end.
was always about the lightsaber, but I like the theme. It was the theme because I'm not a Star Wars fan, but the theme is what drove me in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as a martial arts fan, I mean, you probably appreciate how
Yep.
they're incorporating different fighting styles.
Absolutely.
I mean, like in Phantom Menace, they were showing behind the scenes of how they incorporated everything from like traditional martial arts
Yep.
to log cutters. They had people like swinging axes, and they were documenting all of this
Whoa.
and incorporating that into all of the moves. So my hope is that for The Last Jedi, we're going to get more of that even ramped up to exponential levels. I mean, if I don't get like the most killer lightsaber fight in the history of Star Wars,
You're gonna be upset.
I will be a little disappointed, but then I'll have something to look forward to in Episode 9. So
When you get a chance, how often do you go to the movies? 'Cause I know you like movies.
I love movies. Yeah.
And your family likes them too, obviously. right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How often do you get a chance to go?
To go to the movies?
Yeah. Because you guys got a wacky schedule.
We have a crazy schedule. Yeah, it's very like all over the place, so it really just depends on the week. Like some weeks I'll have like more than enough time. Some weeks I will be like totally cramped and I have no time at all. So, but I definitely say like this past few months have been incredibly busy, so I haven't seen a lot. But like normally I can go like I don't know, like once or twice a week I'll go like to.
See, but that's good. Are movie trailers dragging your age genre in, would you say?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, movie trailers are a huge part about, like, if I see a good trailer, I'm going to go see the movie. Like, that's a huge part of, like, whether I'll, like, go or not.
Then what would get you grounded off of a plane? How often are you a movie person?
I don't need to be grounded. All I gotta do is go take a flight somewhere, and
That's
you
true.
know they've got
you can just watch one right there.
That's
So
true.
yeah, every time I go see my family in England, I've got like 5 movies, and I should be sleeping or doing work or something, but I just cannot get more of the free movies. So
I know,
I'm
me
always
too.
watching them.
I know. I was
Yeah.
in Amsterdam at our Sea Shepherd Global offices, and that flight back, I mean, I watched so many movies
Right?
just because I could.
And you get some great international movies. You get some kind of underground movies sometimes. You
Yeah.
get something that, I mean, I love coming back to LA because I see billboards for films that I just don't see in Las Vegas. And you just have such a great array of cinematography here. And I get that on the airplanes, especially on the international flights,
Yeah.
because you're like, oh, look at these Spanish movies
Yes.
and these Dutch
Yeah.
movies and
Yeah.
these, you know,
French
and it's so, and
films
French
and-
films,
yeah,
all
yeah.
that stuff. So I love it. Yeah.
Charisma, do you have a favorite film? And if you do, why?
Oh, it's so hard. There's so many good movies. Well, I recently loved the movie Get Out. That was
Oh,
such
so
a good
good.
movie.
Yeah.
It's a good movie.
I love that it was. Have you guys all seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Like, I don't want to. I love that it was unpredictable. That was my favorite. Like, it shocked me, and it's hard that a lot of movies like will kind of like shock me because you can kind of like tell what's gonna happen. And I also loved that it was just. It was really clever. Like, it was funny and also a little eerie, but it wasn't like too scary where you were like, I don't know if I want to watch this. I don't know. It was just really well done, and yeah, I definitely respect it a
talked
lot.
to Jordan Peele recently at an event, and I was telling him, you know, how much I enjoyed the film. And his one question to me was, could you predict that the girlfriend was in on it with her family?
I did.
You did?
Yeah.
I
had
did
no
not.
idea.
I had
I knew-
no
I had no idea.
I had
And then
absolutely no
there's
idea.
that shot of her eating cereal.
Yes, that's when it kind of
And
gives it
then
away to everybody.
and she's like not hearing, or she's listening to her headphones.
Oh yeah, I remember
or
that
she's
part.
drinking
Yeah,
milk.
she was like sitting there and she
And
had like that face.
That's when you're just like, oh,
It makes you so angry.
oh, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I held out hope that she was like the good one in that family, and I
And then,
didn't see it
no.
coming.
Yep.
Didn't.
Wasn't
How
the
could she
way.
be? That was crazy. Like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Did you
I
get a-
grew up in that. Like,
I could never stir my little tea. at
the way,
same
yeah, like,
ever
now I can't, now I'm just
again.
like-
I'm like, wait, no, I'm being
No, like-
hypnotized. Stop.
oh gosh, for real.
See, I was hoping that I didn't figure it out so early in because you got to sit and watch it, but I think it's because I watched so many film festival films, and they try to follow what ends up on the big screen in general, but they're not getting there yet. So
Do you
I can
think
see
you
it
just knew
coming.
because of the subject matter?
No, I can see it coming because of so many film festival films that submit it. They all are doing the same thing.
I started to suspect.
But I still
her
enjoyed
when
it
She
still.
couldn't find the keys, and it was on her to find
Right.
the keys.
When they started like foreshadowing it a little bit and kind of like showing
Yeah.
you, like that's when you were like, oh, but at the beginning of the movie, like
Oh,
I
God,
never
no.
ever thought
Yeah, I
until
would've
they
never
started.
suspected.
It started. They kind of like started breadcrumbing you into like knowing. That's when you were like, huh, maybe. But like
Yeah.
until that moment, you were like, no. Not at all, but it's still in that moment you weren't even sure. Really,
Yes,
I felt like I was still
exactly.
questioning.
You
like,
still wanted to
is
give her the
this- yeah, I
benefit
still,
of the
I
doubt.
still did. I still want to be
Yeah.
like, she's a good person.
Yeah,
Like, no,
yeah.
but no.
Yeah.
And then they, yeah.
Ben, you have a favorite film, and if you do, what might that be?
Oh gosh. I was really hoping you were gonna skip me.
It's a hard one.
No,
It is.
you're not being skipped.
It's a
Not
hard
at all.
question. I love film. I mean, I was actually a film minor in
Were you really?
college. Yeah, psychology and film is what I studied.
What made you be a film enthusiast that's going to college then?
Well, I grew up here, right, in Burbank,
Right.
and my first boyfriend was like a filmmaker, and I've just been around it. You know, I grew up around it, so it was just something that I really enjoyed, and I knew. It's kind of funny. My parents relatively forced me to go to college because I already knew I wanted to be a pilot, and you don't have to go to college
That's
for
right.
it. It's recommended. There are some jobs that do require college degrees, but for the most part, it's kind of a moot thing to do. So I figured if I'm going to go to college, I may as well have fun and learn about stuff that I like. So I did film and psychology, and I also managed the TV station at UC San Diego. Huge controversy if you look it up, because I ended up on Bill O'Reilly defending pornography, which
I
was
remember
crazy.
that. That was you?
Yeah, you remember that?
Of course I do.
Oh my gosh.
Because I used to watch Bill O'Reilly religiously. That's why.
Yeah, so that student-run TV.
Yeah, that's right.
No closed,
Yep.
it was closed circuit, so there's no obscenity. Well, there's obscenity rules, but it was a big freedom of speech thing. And yeah, so I mean, to say I have a favorite film would be a really tough question. I really don't know. But
Hey, what have you seen recently?
I actually, for the first time, saw Gone with the Wind. Isn't that crazy? Because that's like such a classic. You should see that film, and it's kind of one of the things. And I thought it was awesome. Everybody talks about how racist it is and how there's like all these like backlines and stories and things. And I actually thought it was really fantastically done, especially like we were talking about with Star Wars with the original trilogy and just the technological limitations that they had making a film of that day, and then to have something like Gone with the Wind was just, I thought it was just beautiful cinematography.
Where did you see it?
On a plane.
Really?
Yeah, on a
Under
plane.
the classic section of
Yeah.
the movies,
You know how they
right?
have like the alphabetical and they have like
Yes.
100 movies,
Yeah.
and so I was just, I should see that.
Did you like the intermission on the plane?
No, they skipped that part.
Yeah, exactly. Michael, you got a favorite film?
Oh gosh, I agree with Abington that it is an extraordinarily difficult question, especially like, you've watched like hundreds and hundreds of films, like how do you pick your favorites? I would say that if I narrowed it by genre, I would probably have an easier time. So if you said like, what's your favorite horror film? I would probably say The Exorcist, just because it was probably one of the first horror films that I watched, and it scarred me at an inappropriately early age. I was about 7, I think, when I
that's
first
terrible.
saw
No,
it.
that's bad. Who let you watch The Exorcist?
Well, no, actually,
when
okay,
you
so
were 7.
my parents were always cool with like whatever I wanted to watch, and this was actually at a time when that movie, believe it or not, I think it aired on network television. I want to say it was like, on ABC or CBS, and that would seem like it would be unheard of today. But yeah, I saw that movie at an early age. If you said like, what's your favorite like twist ending type movie, since we were talking about Get Out, I would probably say Fight Club. I think that movie sort of stuck with me.
Interesting.
But when it comes to, let's say, rewatchability, I do notice that if I go on road trips a lot, I take the audio of Glengarry Glen Ross with me, and I just listen to that because it's such a dialogue-heavy film.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, more than 50% of the dialogue is all profanity, but it's something that you don't necessarily have to look at. You can just kind of hear, and it's got such great performances. So, I mean, those, I would say, are kind of up there on my list for sure.
So if Kizzy or whoever, Bing, went on to Radio Free, what would they learn? What would they get out of your site?
Oh, nothing. There's no educational value to be gleaned
Pure
from
entertainment.
this site whatsoever. No, I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe if we happen to do an interview with like an actor or an actress or a director that you were into, maybe you would read it and get some insight into what they were thinking when they did something, or maybe even a little bit into their personal life or how they got to where they are. Yeah.
Interesting. That's good.
Yeah, again, like, I know that with movie coverage, some people focus more on the review side. We're probably more on the interview spectrum than...
So I just read a really interesting interview about Forrest Gump and the kid that played the young Forrest, and Tom Hanks's character, and they kept, I guess the kid originally, or he normally spoke like how Tom Hanks' character spoke.
Okay.
That was his normal dialect, or just the way he spoke. And they kept trying to tell, because Tom had to hang out with the kid, and they had to kind of like learn each other and just hang out and emulate each other, because one was the younger version of Forrest and the other one was the adult. Mm-hmm. And they kept telling Tom, you have to get him to stop talking like that. And Tom's like, I don't think I can. So Tom actually started talking like the kid. And that's why Forrest Gump has that way that he talks in the movie, because he
was emulating
actually,
the kid.
Yeah, he was actually resembling the kid.
See, I think those are the interesting sort of behind the scenes things
Totally.
that you find out from interviews, and especially that role, because people do impressions of it, and it's so memorable that to know that there's a story behind it where it might not have been that way, except for some minor circumstances behind the scenes. I think that's really fun to know.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
You have a favorite interview that you've done that just stood out?
Oh gosh,
That's an unfair question for all, because the longer you're in this business,
yeah,
the longer,
that's another thing. It's like you look back on 10 to 15 years, and it's kind of hard.
There's
to
some weird ones that stand out though.
pick out favorites. I mean,
but you're not going to talk about the time some actor took a lunch break and came back totally wasted.
Right. I mean,
continued
I
to do
would.
the interview with you. You're not
I
going to
would.
name names.
I mean, you could say what's your favorite train wreck, what's your favorite A-list celebrity. I mean, I might be biased if somebody gives me a hug, that might be enough to.
All right. So,
over in that
do you remember the
direction.
train wreck with Jim Carrey with and Andy Kaufman? Do you remember that press junket
No,
when
but,
Jim Carrey came in and cleared off all the mics? Do you remember that one?
Vaguely, I've heard stories about that. But for that particular movie though, was he in character?
He was in character.
Was he being Andy Kaufman?
He was.
Oh,
he
I
never
saw
left
that.
He never left the character.
You saw the documentary?
Very interesting. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was
Isn't it
crazy.
interesting,
He's a really
huh?
interesting. Yeah. Yeah. He got so into his character, it was crazy. Like overtook him.
Mm-hmm.
He was like, I wouldn't be the same person I am today if I wouldn't have gone through. Like, he became. It was almost like he was Andy Kaufman. Like he was being like haunted by. I don't even know. Like craziness.
Yeah.
Like,
He came into the interviews being Andy Kaufman and just like he did this with everybody's mics and recorders, and they all went flying on the floor, and all the press people were upset.
I can imagine them
Universal
losing
had
their
to spend
minds.
money on everybody's recorders. I mean, literally, he just took and went, and everybody's mouths dropped.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they're like, what? I'm actually going to have to write it down with the pen and paper.
They was shocked. It was really, really interesting.
Actually, I noticed that at a lot of press events, if you were to ask just any random reporter, like, hey, can I borrow a pen? Like, a lot of people, myself included, don't always have pens on them.
Yeah.
Like, you're so dependent on
Your recorder.
your recorder.
And your backup recorder is your iPhone.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
Your brother's got new phones.
yeah. They
What
did.
phone do you do as a social media influencer?
What phone do I have?
Yeah.
I have the 7, but I wish I had the 8 right now or the 10. The 10's nice, but I wouldn't say it's like
Don't get the
really
10.
drastically that different. And like my sister was taking photos for me, and then I was taking photos on my camera, and like my camera actually liked better.
I've had the 10 for like 2 weeks, and I find it to be super buggy, and I kind of wish I had the 8.
Yeah.
And it's also just not having that home button as well.
That bothered me. I went in and I was
It's
like,
really,
what do I do?
it's not only just getting used to, but I mean, there's like a couple of things that I'm like, why doesn't this work
I'm
like
gonna
it
wait
should?
for the next maybe Apple will kind of fix up some.
I'm
bugs
hoping
by
for
the
a
next
software
time.
update.
Yeah, I'm like, hopefully.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Your girls aren't like that, right? With their phones?
Well, they want, whatever the latest model is, but I'm not getting it for them. What? No.
My husband's a total gadget. Like, he is Inspector Gadget. He's Data from the Goonies. Like, he is that.
Wow.
That's my
I
favorite
married Data.
movie.
Yeah,
Like,
I
that's-
love.
Yeah.
My husband's amazing.
Goonies, I saw it like 7 times the summer it came out. That is,
Yeah.
I don't usually
It's
watch
up there.
movies on repeat, but that one,
It's a
Yeah.
solid choice.
yeah, it is.
So when
Yeah.
the 10s came out, he was like, "Yep, here we go.
You're like, yeah.
Family
Yeah.
plan. Here you go." So
Yeah.
yeah.
Hey, that's bomb. It's like, okay, I'm down.
Yeah.
Talk about fashion for you. What's fashion for you? Because you're
Fashion
that
for me.
superstar.
I think fashion is a lot of things. I think it's very big on like how you express yourself. That's why I'm super into it, because as a kid I wasn't shy, but I never really felt comfortable kind of like really being who I was, and I think through fashion it's definitely been a way that I can express myself through like colors or like doing something a little bit different or against the grain, and like I just think that's kind of like the biggest way to show people kind of who you are. And
Where are you from in Canada?
I'm from Alberta, Calgary.
Wow. Damn,
Yeah.
that's vast. That's like really not very urban.
No, it's definitely different. Everyone's like cowboys there, and like we have like the stampede, and like growing up there, like I was definitely a lot different than like everybody, especially fashion wise. Like I didn't really like a lot of the things that people would wear. Like they would just kind of be so simple, and if you really wore anything a little different, I mean, not everyone. There's definitely kind of like certain people that would have different stuff, but I love being in LA because everyone kind of has their own thing, and like I definitely respect that. Like,
So
yeah.
last time around, give you How do people find you? It's easy.
At Charisma Collins. Yeah.
Okay. Bing, what's going on with you before we leave? Let's talk about your foundation again.
Definitely, and this kind of tied into our flight today as well, which we haven't really
With
talked about a
Bentley.
little bit, but yeah, with Bentley. So just like when I learned about flying at 14, Bentley's 14, and he's with Fox's Wednesday's Child, and they're orphans, and I met him a couple months ago at the Emmy gift giving suite, and he has always wanted to be a pilot. So we arranged to take him up for a flight today, and it was his first flight ever. And he just loved it. I mean, he was ear to ear grinning, smiling, just loved the whole thing.
He acknowledged that he was nervous, but he was like such a cute kid.
Totally cute.
Going
He's
up.
adorable.
He's
He's adorable. And, you know, I've done a lot of demo flying, so I sat down with him for about 20 minutes before and just kind of talked to him about what would go on and just, you know, trying to work out the nerves. And he did great. He did excellent. And so one of the things that we're trying to do with the foundation, and it would definitely be a resource for somebody like yourself that wants to find out about more about what's going on in the world. It's abingdonfoundation.org, and it's all about reaching the 15-year-old plus age group, because there's a lot of nonprofits that are geared towards children, but really when you kind of hit that 14, 15 is when you start kind of looking forward to the future. And what am I going to do for a job? What do I like to do? What do I have to go to college? You know, all of those different questions. And there's so many vocational schools out there. And if you really want to go into law enforcement, or if you really wanted to join the military but you don't know much about it, or if you wanted to become a sea shepherd, like how would I go about doing that? That sounds really awesome. The foundation, the Abingdon Foundation, is all about trying to reach through community outreach, through the scholarships. I want to have 10 scholarships in 3 years, 20 scholarships in 5 years to reach the different industries. I'd love to see more female directors, both you know, in film and television. I'd love to see more producers in music that are women. Yes, we are definitely geared towards females, but it's really about just saying you can do that too. Like, you, just because you see pictures of only boys doing it doesn't mean that you can't do it. So, you know, getting into music production, or getting into radio, or getting into computer science, engineering, I mean, you could do anything, right? And unless women understand that that is something that is open to them, I was raised by a very strong woman, and it was very crucial. She was Mexican-American. She basically threw away her scholarship to Stanford because her father basically told her that high school didn't matter because she was just going to get married and have kids anyway. And so, you know, those type of things, when she left the house, which she couldn't wait to do, she was like, screw this. I am going to make my own way from this point forward. So 16 years old on, she was on her own. And she really raised me with this idea of go out and try whatever you want. It was funny with religion. She went and tried Judaism, she tried Buddhism, she tried Christianity, she tried Wiccanism, she tried all of these different religions because she wanted to find out which one she wanted to do. So
what did she pick?
She's a spiritualist, so she doesn't necessarily believe in doctrine, but she definitely has like this overall God force is what she calls it. Nice. But yeah, the foundation and what we did with Bentley today is huge. It's all part of it. It's all about, you know, realizing your dreams and just creating your bucket list, not even knowing that there's something on your bucket list, and putting things on it. You know, there shouldn't just. I landed on a sea one time, on an ocean, and I didn't even realize that was a thing you could do. But I was up filming for Flying Wild Alaska, and Jim Tweedo, he took me out in his plane, which had skis on it, and he's like, "Do you want to land on the water?" And I was like, "It's all frozen. Can we do this?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure, why not? We'll just land in the snow machine paths." I'd never even known that was something to be added to my bucket list. So that was amazing. So, you know, stuff like that just people need to know this world is a total playground, and we should respect it but play. And that's what I want to bring.
Michael, we got about 20 seconds. Got.
Oh gosh. So after the holiday films that I'll be covering, like Star Wars, Pitch Perfect 3, The Greatest Showman, then we'll have the lull in films where studios just kind of dump all the movies out in January. So I'm going to take that time to fulfill my own bucket list and just do some traveling. So I'll be headed out to Memphis, and then Cleveland, so some music-related cities.
Nice.
You should check out my website real quick because there's a golden ticket that we just promoted on Sunday, and it's a free round-trip ticket that we're giving to somebody who wins it anywhere in the world of their choosing.
Oh,
Nice.
gosh, okay.
You might want to check that out.
Zoriana, real quick.
All right, seashepherd.org is the website. If you want to become a volunteer crew member, there's a page for that on the website. You can click a button and donate. Our latest campaign is Operation Taino Spirit Promise that we are doing with Taino warriors and actress Michelle Rodriguez to provide sustainable tools and resources to Puerto Rico. Join us to save the world's oceans, because without Planet Blue, there's no Planet Green, and there is no us.
This is true. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I really enjoyed this show, and thank you for taking me up and making believe I'm a pilot.
Anytime.
This is Movie Reviews and More. If you see someone out without a smile, please give them one of yours, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
You're listening to Movie Reviews and More with Brian Sebastian, only on LA Talk Radio.